My heart is so full. I thank you all for your support, your willingness to share passion for the mission of Dining for Women. And Carrie, thank you for being the first Dining for Women chapter leader in Santa Cruz. Look what's happened. According to the World Bank's 2012 Development Report, 4 million women and girls disappear every year as a result of gender discrimination. Just to put that in perspective, imagine the entire population of LA or the state of South Carolina where I live just disappearing one day. Gender inequality is brutal and pervasive, and that's why the work that Dining for Women does is so important. This is just a brief introductory video for people who are new. Dining for Women is a giving circle. Is there anyone here unfamiliar with the term giving circle? Okay. A giving circle is a group of individuals who get together and based on education about the needs in their community or the mission that they want to meet, they collectively decide how they want to donate their philanthropic dollars. Most giving circles are a group of people in a single community and the money they give stays in their community. The difference in Dining for Women and average giving circles is that our focus is international and that instead of just having one chapter in a community, we have over 400 across the country and in 15 foreign countries. Through collective giving, Dining for Women engages and educates people to invest in programs that make a meaningful difference in the lives of women and girls living in extreme poverty. Our chapters meet monthly, and members share a potluck meal and donate what they would have spent if they'd eaten in a restaurant to one of our high-impact organizations, all of which advance the rights of women and girls. All the chapters that meet in any given month donate their money to the same organization. So if we have, for example, this month our organization is Blink Now. So all the organizations who meet this month, all the chapters, will be supporting Blink Now, which means that any one individual's gift, which the average is about $35 per person, becomes part of a donation, a grant, that is from $35,000 to $45,000. So your individual gift becomes part of a much larger donation that makes a tremendous impact. Our vision is a world where people's lives have been transformed and extreme poverty has been reduced because Dining for Women connected people in creative, powerful ways that assure gender equality. Our focus on gender equality isn't new, but it's become such a high priority that we've chosen to put it in our vision statement. We recently redid our mission and vision because we realize that the connection between global poverty and gender inequality is very direct. You can't address global poverty without addressing women's equality. When women have equal access to education and go on to participate fully in business and economic decision making, they're a key driving force against poverty. And Secretary General Kofi Annan says, Secretary General of the UN says, there's no development strategy more beneficial to society as a whole, women and men alike, than one which involves women as central players. These 4 words, collaboration, education, inspiration, and transformation, embody the culture of Dining for Women. In the last 18 months, Dining for Women has been through a huge growth spurt, a big transition, and during that process, it's become really important to the board and the leadership of Dining for Women that we're able to maintain Dining for Women's DNA. You know, Dining for Women's secret sauce. As we grow, you know, we have to pay attention to systems and processes and the kinds of things that naturally happen when you get bigger to protect the integrity of the organization. But we don't want to lose the grassroots connection. So we're really focusing a lot on Dining for Women culture, what it is, and how to preserve it. Now this is a group of inspired looking women, isn't it?
We must be Santa Cruz.
This is a photograph of people who came to our 10th anniversary celebration in Greenville last summer. And to me, it just epitomizes the inspiration that, you know, and connection that we feel with Dining for Women. And we're looking forward to, as we're moving into our 2nd decade, we're looking forward to using our collective voice to create more global change and impact for women around the world. You've heard the statistics. We've raised today, since 2003, when the inception of Dining for Women, more than $3 million. We have over 400 chapters and 8,500 members. And in 2014, we've committed to $641,516 for organizations that make a difference in the lives of women. And based on the applications from those organizations, that will be 70,000 lives that are directly impacted. 70,000 lives. That doesn't take into consideration their family members and their community. So the ripple effect will be huge. So gender equality, I mentioned that in our vision statement. And, you know, people, when you think of gender equality in the United States, a lot of times you think of equal pay for equal work. But in the developing world and for women and girls around the world, gender inequality is much more dangerous, it's much more difficult, and it's gut-wrenching, actually. Here are a couple of statistics. A girl in India is 5 times more likely to die before her 5th birthday than a boy. And this one from Half the Sky. More women and girls have been killed in the last 50 years just because they're women and girls than all the men in all the world wars in the 20th century combined. So gender inequality and these disappearing women and girls come from sex-selective abortions, neglect of girl children, maternal death from very early marriages, bride burnings, honor killings, domestic violence, sex trafficking. It's hard to be a woman in a lot of places in the world. And in my experience, people just are not that familiar with the pervasiveness of gender inequality around the world and the effects that it has on society. And why does that matter? Well, women, half of the population of the world, If they're valued and educated and given an opportunity, many of the world's most difficult problems, like overpopulation and poverty and violence and conflict, can be addressed because educated women have fewer children, economically empowered women stabilize their families, communities, and their nations, and economically empowered nations are less likely to get involved in violent conflicts around the world. As Nicholas Kristof and Cheryl Woodun say in their book, Half the Sky, women are not the problem, they're the solution. This chart illustrates Dining for Women's growth over the last 11 years, and it looks like a boring graph, but if you think about it in terms of the representation of our collaboration, this is Dining for Women's collaboration with dozens of nonprofit organizations around the world. It reflects the transformative work, the education and inspiration of our Dining for Women members who donate $30, $20, $10, one dinner at a time. It reflects lives that have been transformed through increased awareness and the direct impact that our donations make. Speaking of direct impact that our donations make, what I want to share with you, Dining for Women gets impact reports from the organizations that we fund. We ask for 6-month interim reports and then completion reports when the project has been completed. And we've gotten a few in recently that I wanted to share with you. Starfish 1 by 1 is an organization that works to empower adolescent indigenous girls in Guatemala. In February of 2012, we donated $47,382 to Starfish 1 by 1. And the title of the project was called Bridge, Building a Bridge for Indigenous Adolescent Girls. The mission of Starfish 1 by 1 is to empower young women through education and mentorship to become leaders in their community. And just to put it in context, indigenous Mayan girls in Guatemala have very little chance. Very few of them go to school. Most of their parents are illiterate, and they're under extreme cultural pressure to get married very early. Only 1 in 10 reaches the 10th grade. Over 40% of females are married before they're 18, and 93% of them have never had any kind of work-related training. So Starfish 1 by 1 did a pilot project which proved successful with girls between 10 and 14 years old. And then once they applied to us, once they saw that the pilot was successful, and our grant was the first grant that got this program off the ground. So we helped launch this program. And what they do is use mentoring and weekly classes to get girls excited about healthcare, education. They mentor them, they get them internships in businesses so that they can go on to high school and then to university. For the final 6 months of 2012, this program served 76 girls and their families, which are an average size of 8. So that was 608 lives. And in 2013, they increased the number served to 120. The Bridge program uses mentorship, peer support, and positive social relationships to build self-esteem and to have classes on health, financial, and computer literacy and vocal empowerment. So some of the short-term results were that Girl Pioneers is what they call them. Girl Pioneers had 50 professional internships in formal settings, which if you think about 93% of the population never having any work experience at all, that's phenomenal. 84% of the students were promoted to the next grade. 100% of them now have savings accounts. 98% of them avoided pregnancy, and 98% avoided marriage. For 2012, they achieved a 93% retention rate in the program. And for the first 6 months of 2013, that increased to 99%. Now, they realize the cultural pressures against for girls in Guatemala are really extreme. So one of the things they realized is that they needed more mentorship. So originally they had one mentor for 30 girls, and they changed it. Now they have one mentor for 15 girls. 66% of Starfish graduates are studying at the university level. 85% are employed outside of their homes. And based on the success of this project, the Bridge program is now a formal part, essential and formal part of Starfish 1x1's program. Irma, one of the participants, says, "Education is something really important in my life because each day I learn new things that help to mold and change my life. My attitude and my way of thinking have become much more open and outgoing. Although I still encounter obstacles in my life, I'm now able to confront them with a positive attitude, which helps me to move forward in a healthy way." So, the next project I want to tell you about is from Nepal, and the organization is called Nepal Teacher Training Institute, and the specific project is called Her Turn. In January 2012, we donated $48,369 to be distributed over 2 years. Her Turn is a girls' education and empowerment program. And the program objective is to help Nepali girls from the Sindopachok district, I hope I'm not messing that up too badly, to become educated, empowered, and equal through a process of team building that builds sisterhood, inclusion, and consensus. They have workshops, girl-centered workshops, that deal with issues pertaining to health, nutrition, puberty, safety, leadership skills, and how to advocate for themselves. The program targets girls ages 10 to 14 who live in communities with especially high rates of risk for sex trafficking. So in the application they sent us, their target was to reach 200 girls. And in this follow-up report, they had reached 400. And the reason, it was interesting, the reason that they were able to increase the number of girls they could serve was because the cost of food went down from what they proposed in their budget, and with the additional money, they could enroll more girls in the program. And the other thing was the currency rate had changed between the time when they applied and when they were implementing the program, and so that gave them more money that they could enroll more girls. They conducted workshops in 4 schools and 260 participants, and the attendance rate was 99%. So these girls are eager and anxious for this training and to absorb this. And then they had, in addition to this, the original program grant proposal, they had learned of a district, Gorkha district, that had an extremely high rate of girls voluntarily getting married at 14 and younger. So they decided to do outreach into the Gorkha district to address this early marriage issue. And some of the reports say the changes included, according to one principal, shifting the culture of our school. And I've got a quote from that principal. Changing some of the behaviors in their households, in particular the girls take home the information they learn on hygiene and safe water handling techniques and changes in their diets, nutritional information, and basic information on menstruation. So one of the mothers reported that she had always been concerned about how much blood she lost each month, and her daughter came home and explained to her that it was all fine. So these girls are educating their entire families. There are examples of girls who, once they learn that sexual harassment from boys in school is not acceptable, then they feel empowered, they go and they talk to their principal, and the offender, the perpetrator, is disciplined, removed, and the girls' grades explode and they go up and they just feel completely different. One girl, her parents were really pushing her to get married, and after participating in this class, she understood that that wasn't what was best, and that in fact in Nepal to get married under the age of 20 is even illegal. So she enlisted her trainer to go with her and talk to her parents, and they convinced the family to allow her to go to Kathmandu and get a job. So here's a quote from Anna Tamang. She says, "I'm 13 years old. I think that her turn is important because it's taught me not to be afraid of my period and that menstruation is a perfectly natural part of growing up. I also think that it's very important for us to have learned about how to recognize sex traffickers. Before her turn, I think it would have been easy to be lured by a trafficker." The principal that I was referring to said, "I'm the principal of the Devi schools. I've taught here for 24 years, and in 24 years I've been unable to provide menstruation materials. I didn't realize how important it was. I thank her turn for shifting the culture in my school. We will continue to talk about these issues moving forward as a school. I see her turn as necessary, not optional. The girls here are now confident and carry themselves with the knowledge that they're equal to boys and can accomplish what they commit themselves to." $50 again for a 2-year grant. And the name of the project was Self-Sufficiency for Village Women. The project goals were to assist women in the Tianaban village of Senegal to provide a potable water system, including a solar-powered pump and irrigation system, to provide tools and materials and training for community gardens, to teach them how to make fuel-efficient stoves, and to conduct a leadership training support in self-sufficiency for women and girls. So in April 2013, they received this grant, and we featured them in April. In September, when they actually had the money in their hands, they got started. And they cleared and fenced the garden site, and then when they were getting ready to drill the well, they hit rock. And they couldn't get the well, which is another thing. I mean, stuff like that happens, and it's interesting for us through these follow-up reports to learn about the obstacles to implementing a program. But some village elders contributed property, and they were able to go ahead and drill the well. So now they have the well and the pump. They've organized into a garden, which you see there. They have a gravity-fed water distribution system where the water flows into tanks so the women can get their water without having to walk so far. And they have planted tomatoes, peppers, eggplants. They've installed a water tap in the village, and they've taught women how to build the fuel-efficient stoves. So just since September 2013, they've covered a lot of ground in this one little village in Senegal. And I just love the quotes. From Kiwamba, I think Diop says, "Now I only use 1 stick of wood to cook a meal, and I'm no longer afraid of fire breaking out of my kitchen. The Gon Diouf boasts, we know how to build an improved cook stove that saves so much firewood. I built 1 stove and I use it all the time. It improved cook stoves to help us and benefit it. The improved cook stoves help us and benefit the environment too." She said, "I plan to teach my sister, who lives in another village, how to build her own cook stove." So imagine if all these women were training other women in other villages, because we women are collaborative and we help one another. So I want to share with you some of Dining for Women's organizational priorities that will help us continue to grow as an organization and strengthen so that we can continue to raise money that changes lives. One of our main focuses is we want to find out what our members want, what the chapter leaders want. What would, in 2 years, how could we duplicate Santa Cruz region everywhere in the country in 2 years? So we want to focus a lot on membership, retention, and engagement. Creating other deeper engagement experiences like an advocacy strategy, because grassroots efforts are critical, but for long-term change, you have to have systemic change from the top too, grassroots and top down. Expanding our travel program. Yes, the travel program is going to stay. Yes, it's going to actually grow. So look for a trip in the fall and then one in the early part of next year. We want to focus on strengthening the regional leader support system. Patty works really, really hard. And if you compare Dining for Women to a for-profit company, the regional leaders are like the vice presidents, and we can't do without them. They need some support, more support. We want to continue to refine the grant process. We're always improving it and refining it. And we're going to be expanding our funding model because as we grow, we raise more money. And so how do we distribute it efficiently? We aren't going to be doing the member choice that we had talked about a couple of years ago. That's going to be too complicated, but we'll find out. We'll come up and share with you the expanded model that we developed. And we want to do more sharing of the follow-up reports, make them more accessible, because that's so gratifying, isn't it, to hear what really happened. We post them on the website, but we want to make them easier. And the communications is key. We have a new website. We've started Google Hangouts this year. At the first of every month, we interview either the founder or the program director of the organization. And you can find that Google Hangout online. And there is nothing like hearing about a program from the person who's created it or who is executing it on the ground. You get a completely different perspective. And we want to continue to, improve the organizational vibrancy. We want board development. We're really focusing on preserving our culture and how to maintain that and permeate the entire organization. Systems and processes, which are boring but crucial for you to get everything you rely on for Dining for Women to be efficient and transparent and high quality nonprofit is really key, and we always are focusing on that. And then beginning of fundraising, the beginning of a development plan. Fundraising. I'm not going to talk a lot about that, but for people who aren't really familiar with Dining for Women, it's important for you to know that of every dollar that's donated to a program, 85% of it goes directly to the project. 15% of it supports our administrative costs. That 15% from all the program revenue that we generate each year only covers about 29% of our expenses. So we've got to raise the other 2/3 from other ways. And we do that through the 13th month campaign, from chapter events. And do you know, we're starting to get some planned giving gifts. People are writing us to say they're putting us in their wills. We got a memorial gift recently. A woman passed away and a donation showed up in honor of her from her family foundation. So our 13th month campaign goal was $130,000. Do you know we raised $149,876? We're going to be doing a Mother's Day campaign. You can honor or memorialize your mother. Anyway, I want you to know that we're very, very lean. We're a very lean organization. Our overall expenses are less than 22%. And if this is confusing or you have any questions later, I'll be happy to talk more about the details of it. These are pictures from our trips, the Dining for Women members, with women that we've met in places around the world. And you can see by the expressions on their faces that the connections that we make with the women when we travel is so deep. The education really increases our awareness and it inspires us, but it also really opens up a level of empathy and compassion and love that we feel. We realize when we're in Nepal or Vietnam or Guatemala that we are the same. We want the same thing for our children. We want healthy families. We want stable communities. And we want to be independent and self-sufficient. So what starts off as a desire to make a difference in the world through a Dining for Women dinner transforms us. And as we're transformed, the world is transformed. Marianne Williamson has a quote that I just love, and she says, really, global transformation is a personal thing. As we go, so goes the world. And you can't participate in Dining for Women and not be transformed. And then we do transform the world. Together, we are powerful and we do make a difference. I love this slide. Each one of you generates the energy and the passion that keeps Dining for Women moving forward. I had an idea, and I stuck with it long enough to see some chapters develop outside of South Carolina. But after that, it's you guys. You are the ones who keep it going in your community. You are the ones who talk about these organizations. You're the one who talks about the challenges of women around the world and raise the awareness in your community. It's collective giving, it's collective action, it's collective awareness, and it's collective transformation.
Thank you, Dining for Women. We are very grateful about what you are doing.
Thank you, Santa Cruz chapters of Dining for Women.
Woo!